I watched in horror as my mother threw a champagne flute at my father's head during what was supposed to be our family's heartwarming reunion dinner. The cameras kept rolling, the crew pretended this was all perfectly normal, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I realized that millions of people would witness this train wreck on national television in just 3 months. My name is Stephanie Walsh, and 6 months ago, I thought agreeing to let my family star in a reality show called The Real American Family was the worst decision I'd ever made. Now, as I sit in my tiny apartment watching the promotional clips that make us look like complete lunatics, I know it was actually the worst decision anyone in human history has ever made. It all started when my younger brother Derek got a job as a production assistant at Meridian Entertainment. He'd been working there for about 3 months when he came home for Sunday dinner, practically vibrating with excitement about some amazing opportunity he'd discovered for our family. I should have known right then that whatever Derek was excited about would end in disaster. This is the same brother who once convinced me that putting aluminum foil in the microwave would make it cook faster, and somehow I still trusted his judgment. They're looking for a real, authentic American family, Derek announced as he helped himself to thirds of Mom's pot roast. Not actors, not people trying to be famous, just regular people living their regular lives. Dad looked up from his plate, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. What kind of show? Reality TV, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but for normal people. The producers want to show what real families are like, all the love and support and everyday moments that make families special. I nearly choked on my mashed potatoes. If the producers wanted to show what real families were like, they clearly hadn't met the Walsh family. We were about as far from love and support as you could get while still technically being related to each other. My mother, Patricia, had been going through what she called her Renaissance period ever since she turned 55. This involved taking up painting, yoga, and having what she insisted were deep philosophical conversations with anyone who would listen. What it actually involved was her buying expensive art supplies she never used, attending yoga classes where she mostly gossiped, and cornering house guests to discuss her theories about why people in the 1800s were happier than people today. My father, Robert, worked as a regional manager for a mid-level accounting firm called Brennan & Associates. He'd been doing the same job for 23 years, and his idea of excitement was reorganizing his filing system or finding a new brand of mechanical pencil. He wore the same 3 ties in rotation, ate the same turkey sandwich for lunch every day, and had never, in my entire life, expressed an opinion about anything more controversial than whether it was going to rain. Then there was my sister Amanda, who was 2 years younger than me and had spent the last 5 years trying to become a lifestyle influencer. She had about 300 followers on Instagram, most of whom were our relatives and her coworkers at the dental office where she worked as a receptionist. Despite this, she was convinced that fame was just around the corner, and she approached every day like she was already living in front of cameras. And Derek, the baby of the family at 24, who changed career goals approximately every 6 months and had never met a get-rich-quick scheme he didn't want to try. His bedroom at our parents' house looked like a museum of abandoned dreams, a keyboard from his musician phase, a stack of real estate books from when he was going to flip houses, and approximately 40 different protein powders from his brief stint as a fitness influencer. This was the family Derek thought would be perfect for reality television. I already talked to my supervisor, Derek continued, completely oblivious to the fact that none of us looked thrilled about this idea. She said she'd pass along our information to the casting department. We just need to make a little audition video showing how great we are together. I don't know, I said, trying to inject some sanity into the conversation. Reality TV shows usually focus on drama and conflict. What if they edit us to look bad? Stephanie, come on, Amanda said, her eyes lighting up with the kind of enthusiasm she usually reserved for new skincare products. This could be huge for all of us. Think about the opportunities, the brand partnerships, the sponsored content. What brand partnerships? I asked. You're a dental receptionist, and I work in customer service at an insurance company. What are we going to sponsor? Teeth cleanings and liability coverage? That's exactly the kind of negative thinking that's holding you back, Amanda replied, flipping her hair in a way that suggested she was already imagining herself on camera. Successful people say yes to opportunities. Mom put down her fork and looked thoughtful. It might be nice to have some professional photos of the family. And if it helps Derek with his career. It would definitely help, Derek said quickly. The producers love authentic families, and we're about as authentic as it gets. I wanted to point out that authentic wasn't necessarily a good thing when it came to television, but Dad was already nodding along. I suppose it couldn't hurt to make a little video, he said, as long as it doesn't interfere with work. And that's how, against my better judgment, I found myself in our parents' living room the following Saturday, watching Derek set up his phone to record what would become the most embarrassing 15 minutes of footage in existence. Okay, everyone just act natural, Derek instructed, as if there was any way to act natural while being recorded by someone who kept saying things like, "Don't look at the camera," and "more energy." Mom had decided to wear her newest yoga outfit, which was a bright purple ensemble that made her look like she was about to lead a meditation retreat. Dad had dressed in what he considered his casual clothes, which meant khakis and a polo shirt that he'd probably been wearing since 1998. Amanda had spent 3 hours getting ready and looked like she was about to attend a red carpet event rather than film a home video. So tell me about your family, Derek said from behind the camera, reading from a list of questions he'd written down. What makes the Walsh family special? There was a long pause where we all looked at each other, trying to figure out how to answer that question without lying outright. Well, Mom finally said, we're very close. We have dinner together every Sunday, and we always support each other through everything. This was technically true, if you ignored the fact that our Sunday dinners usually involved at least one argument, and our version of support often looked more like criticism disguised as helpful advice. And we're all pursuing our passions, Amanda added, striking a pose that suggested she'd been practicing for this moment. I'm building my personal brand as a lifestyle influencer, and Derek is working in entertainment, and Stephanie is, well, she's working in insurance. Customer service, I corrected. I help people file claims when bad things happen to them. That's so important, Derek said, though he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Stephanie is like the heart of the family. She's always there when we need her. I tried to smile, but I had a feeling it looked more like a grimace. The truth was, I was there when they needed me, because I was the only one who seemed to remember that actions had consequences. When Amanda racked up credit card debt buying clothes for her Instagram posts, I was the one who helped her figure out a payment plan. When Derek got fired from his job at the vitamin store for trying to convince customers that expensive supplements could cure their problems, I was the one who drove him to job interviews. When Mom decided to surprise Dad with a romantic getaway that cost more than their mortgage payment, I was the one who helped them figure out how to pay for it. We're just a normal family, Dad said, which was possibly the most inaccurate statement anyone had ever made. We love each other. We have our little disagreements like anyone else, but at the end of the day, family is what matters most. As if on cue, the smoke detector in the kitchen started beeping. Mom had put a casserole in the oven and forgotten about it, which was fairly typical. Amanda jumped up to turn it off, knocking over her water glass in the process. Derek kept filming as the water spread across the coffee table, soaking into a stack of Dad's accounting journals. Cut, Derek yelled, but it was too late. The damage was done, both to Dad's journals and to any hope we had of looking like a normal family. But somehow, impossibly, that disastrous audition video worked. 3 weeks later, Derek got a call from the casting department at Meridian Entertainment. They wanted to meet with our family. They said we had exactly the kind of authentic, relatable energy they were looking for. Derek explained as we sat in the waiting room of Meridian's offices. The producer, Linda Castellano, watched our video and said we reminded her of her own family. I looked around at my family, all of whom had dressed up for this meeting like it was a job interview. Mom was wearing a blazer she'd borrowed from her sister. Dad had put on his newest tie, and Amanda looked like she was about to audition for a soap opera. Derek had gotten a haircut and was wearing a button-down shirt, which made him look like he was pretending to be a responsible adult. Just remember, Derek continued, they want to see the real us. Don't try to be perfect. Be natural. What if natural isn't good enough? I asked. It will be, Derek said confidently. They specifically said they didn't want a family that was too polished or fake. They want real people dealing with real problems. I had a sinking feeling that the Walsh family was about to give them more real problems than they bargained for. Linda Castellano turned out to be a woman in her 40s with the kind of aggressive friendliness that made me immediately suspicious. She had perfectly styled blonde hair, a smile that never quite reached her eyes, and the ability to make everything sound like the most exciting thing that had ever happened. "The Walsh family," she exclaimed as we were led into her office. "I am so excited to meet you. Your audition video was absolutely perfect. So genuine, so real. That moment with the smoke detector? Pure gold." She gestured for us to sit down on a couch that was probably worth more than my car, while she perched on the edge of her desk like she was about to deliver the most important news of our lives. "So here's what we're thinking," Linda continued. "We want to follow your family for 6 months. Not constantly, of course, but we'll be there for the big moments, the little moments, the everyday moments that make your family special. We'll film you at home, at work, during family gatherings, maybe a vacation if you're planning one." "What kind of show is this exactly?" I asked, because someone had to ask the practical questions. "It's called The Real American Family," Linda explained. "We're looking at different families from different parts of the country, showing what real life looks like for real people. No scripted drama, no manufactured conflicts, just authentic family life." "And this will be on television?" Dad asked, adjusting his glasses nervously. "Cable television," Linda said. "The Family Network. It's a smaller network, but we have a very dedicated audience. People who are looking for real, heartwarming content about families and relationships." Amanda was practically bouncing in her seat. "When would it air?" "We're planning to start filming in about 6 weeks, and the show would premiere this fall. 6 months of filming, edited down to about 8 episodes. Each family gets their own episode, and then we'll do a reunion special at the end." "What about our privacy?" I asked. "What if we don't want certain things to be shown?" Linda's smile became a little more fixed. "Well, obviously we'll work with you to make sure everyone's comfortable, but part of what makes reality TV so compelling is that it's real. We can't edit out all the messy parts, or it wouldn't be authentic." "The messy parts are what make families interesting," Mom said, apparently forgetting that our messy parts included things like her throwing a fit when Dad rearranged the spice rack without asking, or Amanda's tendency to burst into tears when anyone criticized her Instagram posts. "Exactly," Linda said. "Viewers want to see that even loving families have their challenges. They want to relate to what they're watching." "So what happens if we say yes?" Derek asked. "We'll have contracts drawn up. Everyone over 18 will need to sign, and we'll start pre-production. We'll install some cameras in your house, just small ones, very discreet. We'll have a crew follow you around for certain activities. It'll be like having a few extra family members around." I wanted to point out that our family already had enough trouble functioning with just the 5 of us, but everyone else seemed to be getting more excited by the minute. "There's also a small stipend for participating," Linda added casually. "Nothing huge, but enough to cover any inconvenience." "How small?" Amanda asked. $5,000 per family member for the full 6 months. I did the math quickly. $25,000 for the whole family. That wasn't life-changing money. But it wasn't nothing either. "We don't have to decide right now," Linda said, though her tone suggested that we absolutely should decide right now. "But I will say that we have several other families we're considering, and we're hoping to make our final selections by the end of the week." "Could we have a day to think about it?" I asked. "Of course," Linda said, "but don't think too long. Opportunities like this don't come around every day." We left the meeting in a state of collective excitement, except for me. I had a growing feeling that we were about to make a terrible mistake, but I couldn't quite articulate why. $25,000, Amanda said as we walked to our cars. That's $5,000 each. I could use that money for so many things. It's not about the money, Derek said, though he looked pretty excited about the money. This is about getting our story out there, showing people what real families are like. I think it could be fun, Mom said. Like having a family documentary made. What do you think, Stephanie? Dad asked. I looked at my family, all of whom were clearly already planning how to spend their $5,000, and I realized that my opinion wasn't going to change anything. They'd already decided. I think, I said carefully, that we should be prepared for this to be harder than we expect. Everything worthwhile is hard, Mom said, which was the kind of thing she'd been saying a lot since she started attending yoga classes. But think about the stories we'll have to tell, Amanda added. Our kids will be able to watch this someday and see what we were like when we were young. I didn't point out that Amanda was 26 and hardly young anymore, or that the idea of future generations watching our family's dysfunction on television was more horrifying than heartwarming. So we're doing this, Derek asked. We're doing this, Dad said. And that was it. The decision was made. 2 weeks later, we were all sitting in a lawyer's office, signing contracts that were approximately 50 pages long and filled with legal language that none of us really understood. The lawyer, who Linda had recommended, assured us that everything was standard for reality television. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were signing away more than we realized. Just remember, the lawyer said as we finished signing, once filming starts, everything you do could potentially be used in the show. The cameras won't be rolling all the time, but when they are, you should assume that anything you say or do might end up on television. What if we change our minds? I asked. There's a clause about that, the lawyer said, flipping through the contract. You can withdraw from filming, but you'd have to pay back the stipend, plus production costs that have already been incurred. Depending on when you withdraw, that could be a significant amount of money. We're not going to change our minds, Derek said quickly. This is going to be great. Famous last words. The first sign that things were going to go badly came when the production crew showed up at our parents' house to install the cameras. I'd expected maybe 2 or 3 small cameras, hidden discreetly in corners where they'd be barely noticeable. Instead, 6 people arrived with enough equipment to film a major motion picture. We need to get good coverage of all the main living areas, explained the crew chief. A guy named Tony, who looked like he'd been working in television for about 30 years and had seen everything. Kitchen, living room, dining room, and we'll need to do interviews in a separate space. Interviews? Mom asked. Confessional-style interviews. Tony explained. We'll set up a space where family members can talk directly to the camera about what's happening, how they're feeling, that kind of thing. Like on Big Brother? Amanda asked, looking thrilled. Exactly like that, Tony said. We'll probably want to do a few interviews each filming day, just to get everyone's perspective on what's happening. As the crew worked, I started to understand just how invasive this process was going to be. The cameras weren't small or discreet, they were obvious, mounted on walls and sitting on tables, impossible to ignore. Thick cables ran along the baseboards, and additional lighting was installed to make sure everything would look good on camera. This is more intense than I expected, I whispered to Derek as we watched the crew transform our childhood home into a television studio. It's going to be fine, Derek said, but he looked a little uncertain too. Once we get used to it, we'll forget the cameras are even there. I don't think I'm going to forget about cameras that are the size of toasters, I said. Stephanie, you're being negative again, Amanda said, appearing beside us with her phone out, recording the crew working. This is so exciting. I'm going to document the whole process on my Instagram. You might want to check your contract about that, Tony said, overhearing. There are usually restrictions about posting behind-the-scenes content before the show airs. Amanda's face fell. I can't post anything. You can post, but it has to be approved by the producers first, Tony explained. They don't want any spoilers getting out. This was the first hint that maybe we weren't going to have as much control over our story as we'd thought. The actual filming started 3 days later. Linda arrived with a crew of about 8 people, including Tony. 2 camera operators, a sound engineer, a lighting technician, and a couple of assistant producers whose jobs seemed to involve taking notes and looking very serious. Today we're just going to film some basic family time, Linda explained as the crew set up their equipment. Maybe dinner, some conversation, just natural family interactions. Should we cook something special? Mom asked. No, just whatever you normally do. Linda said, we want this to be authentic. The problem with authenticity is that authentic family dinners at the Walsh house usually involved at least one person being in a bad mood, someone complaining about work, and Mom trying to get everyone to eat vegetables that had been cooked until they were basically mush. So what does everyone have planned for this week? Linda asked as we sat around the dinner table, trying to pretend that having 8 strangers pointing cameras at us was totally normal. I have a big presentation at work, Dad said, carefully cutting his pork chop into precise squares. We're trying to win a new client. That's exciting, Linda said with the kind of enthusiasm that suggested she'd never been excited about anything in her entire life. Tell us about it. Well, it's a mid-sized manufacturing company that needs help with their payroll processing, Dad said, and I could see Linda's face starting to glaze over. They've been doing everything manually, but they're growing and they need to streamline their systems. Fascinating, Linda said, though she clearly found it anything but fascinating. What about you, Patricia? What's new in your world? I'm working on a new painting, Mom said, perking up. It's an abstract piece inspired by the way light moves through water. That sounds beautiful, Linda said. Can we see it? Oh, it's not finished yet, Mom said quickly. I'm still working on the concept. This was Mom's way of saying she'd bought a canvas and some paints but hadn't actually started painting yet, which was how most of her artistic endeavors went. I'm launching a new series on my Instagram, Amanda announced, Wellness Wednesday, where I share tips for living your best life. How many followers do you have? Linda asked. Just over 300, Amanda said, as if this was an impressive number. But I'm focusing on engagement rather than just numbers, quality over quantity. Absolutely, Linda said, though I could tell she was trying to figure out how to make Amanda's Instagram account sound interesting to television viewers. Derek, you're the one who got your family involved in this, Linda said. How does it feel to see it all coming together? It's amazing, Derek said, grinning at the camera. I'm just excited for people to see what a great family we have. And Stephanie, Linda said, turning to me. You were a little hesitant about this whole thing. How are you feeling now? I looked at the cameras, at Linda's expectant face, at my family all staring at me, and I realized that this was the moment where I could either be honest or say what everyone wanted to hear. I'm excited, I lied. It's definitely an adjustment, but I think it'll be a good experience. That's wonderful, Linda said. I think viewers are really going to connect with your family's story. After dinner, Linda pulled me aside for what she called a quick chat, which turned out to be a 10-minute interview where she asked me increasingly personal questions about my family relationships. You seem like the responsible one, Linda said, which was a polite way of saying I seemed like the boring one. Do you ever feel like you're taking care of everyone else? I think all families have different roles, I said carefully. We all support each other in different ways. But you're the one who helps out when there are problems, right? Linda pressed. Derek mentioned that you helped Amanda with some financial difficulties. I glanced at Derek, who was standing nearby looking guilty. Apparently, he'd been sharing family details with the producers without mentioning it to the rest of us. Families help each other, I said. That's what families do. Of course, Linda said. But it must be frustrating sometimes, always being the one who has to fix things. I don't think of it as fixing things, I said. I think of it as helping. Right, helping, Linda said, making notes on her clipboard. And how do you feel about Derek's career in entertainment? Are you proud of him for getting the family this opportunity? Of course I'm proud of Derek, I said. He's my brother. But you had some reservations about doing the show, Linda said. What were you worried about? I looked at the camera, at Linda's expectant face, at my brother who was obviously hoping I'd say something supportive, and I made my second mistake of the evening. I guess I was worried about our privacy, I said. But now that we're doing it, I think it'll be fine. Privacy is so important, Linda agreed. But sometimes sharing our stories can help other people feel less alone. You know, other families who are dealing with similar challenges. What kind of challenges? I asked. Oh, the usual family stuff. Linda said vaguely. Communication issues, different personalities, that kind of thing. I should have asked more questions. I should have demanded to know exactly what challenges she was referring to. But the cameras were rolling, and everyone was looking at me, and I wanted to get this over with. Sure, I said. I think people can relate to that. Perfect, Linda said. And I had the distinct feeling that I'd just walked into a trap. The next few weeks of filming were relatively painless. The crew showed up a few times a week, usually for dinner or family activities. They filmed Dad at his office, Mom at her yoga class, Amanda at work, and Derek at his job at Meridian Entertainment. They filmed us grocery shopping, watching television, and having conversations that felt increasingly artificial. Just pretend we're not here, Linda kept saying. But it's impossible to pretend that 8 people with cameras aren't there when they're literally standing 3 feet away from you. The problem started during week 4 of filming, when Amanda decided to throw herself a birthday party. She'd originally planned a small gathering with a few friends, but once the cameras got involved, it turned into a much bigger production. We should invite everyone, Amanda said as we sat in the kitchen, supposedly planning the party but actually performing for the cameras. All our friends, our cousins, people from work, it'll be so much more fun with a big group. That's a lot of people, Mom said, looking nervous. Are you sure we can handle that many people? Mom, it's fine, Amanda said. We'll do it buffet style. Keep it casual. What's your budget for this party? I asked, because someone had to ask the practical questions. I don't know, maybe a few $100s, Amanda said. It's my birthday. I want it to be special. A few $100s for how many people? I asked. I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 people. Amanda, that's not realistic, I said. If you want to feed 40 people, you're looking at a lot more than a few $100s. Why do you always have to be so negative? Amanda snapped. Can't you just be supportive for once? I'm being realistic, I said. There's a difference. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Amanda said, turning to the camera. Stephanie always has to point out problems instead of just being happy for people. I felt my face getting hot. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to help you plan a party that you can actually afford. I can afford it, Amanda said. I have money saved. You have money saved because I helped you pay off your credit cards, I said without thinking. There was a moment of silence where I realized I just said something on camera that Amanda probably didn't want the world to know. Cut, Linda said. But I could tell she was thrilled. This was exactly the kind of authentic family conflict she'd been hoping for. I'm sorry, I said to Amanda. I didn't mean to bring that up. It's fine, Amanda said, but she looked embarrassed and angry. Let's just forget about it. But of course, we couldn't forget about it, because it was all on camera. And Linda was already making notes about how to incorporate it into the show. These kinds of moments are what make reality TV so compelling, Linda said to me later, when she pulled me aside for another interview. Viewers want to see that even loving families have their tensions. But Amanda's going to be embarrassed, I said. She doesn't want everyone to know about her financial problems. We'll handle it sensitively, Linda assured me. We're not trying to make anyone look bad. We're just trying to show real family dynamics. The party ended up being a disaster. Amanda invited 60 people, borrowed money from Mom to pay for food and decorations, and then spent the entire evening stressed out because there wasn't enough food and the house was too crowded. Dad retreated to his office. Mom kept trying to get people to use coasters, and Derek appointed himself as the unofficial photographer, taking pictures of everyone whether they wanted them or not. This is supposed to be fun, Amanda said during one of her confessional interviews, tears streaming down her face. It's my birthday, and it's supposed to be perfect, and everything is going wrong. What do you think went wrong? Linda asked from behind the camera. I don't know, Amanda said. Maybe Stephanie was right. Maybe I tried to do too much. How do you feel about Stephanie's reaction to your party plans? Linda asked. I know she was trying to help, Amanda said, but sometimes it feels like she doesn't believe in me. Like she thinks I'm always going to mess things up. Do you think that's true? Linda asked. I don't know, Amanda said. Maybe. She's always been the responsible one, and I'm the one who makes mistakes. Watching this interview later, I realized that Linda had a talent for getting people to say things they probably shouldn't say on camera. She asked questions that seemed supportive and understanding, but somehow led to people revealing their deepest insecurities and frustrations. Family dynamics can be so complicated, Linda said during my own confessional interview after the party. You're trying to help Amanda, but she feels like you're being critical. How do you handle that? I don't know, I said honestly. I love Amanda, and I want her to be happy. But I also don't want to watch her make the same mistakes over and over again. What kind of mistakes? Linda asked. Just financial stuff. Mostly, I said. She gets excited about things and doesn't always think through the practical side. And you end up helping her when things go wrong, Linda said. Sometimes, I said. But I don't mind helping. That's what family is for. But it must be frustrating, Linda said. Always being the one who has to fix things. I don't think of it as fixing things, I said, repeating what I'd said before. I think of it as helping. Right, Linda said. But don't you ever want Amanda to learn to handle things on her own? It was such a simple question, but it hit something I'd been thinking about for years. Did I want Amanda to learn to handle things on her own? Or did I keep helping her because it made me feel needed? I want her to be happy, I said finally. If that means she needs help sometimes, then I'm happy to help. That's very generous of you, Linda said. Do you think the rest of your family appreciates how much you do for them? I think they appreciate it, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure that was true. It can be hard to be the responsible one, Linda said sympathetically. Everyone expects you to have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out, I said. I'm just trying to do my best. Of course you are, Linda said. We all are. After the party disaster, things started to get more tense during filming. The cameras seemed to be capturing every little disagreement, every moment of frustration, every awkward silence. What had started as authentic family moments was turning into a catalog of everything that was wrong with our family dynamics. I think we need to talk about how this is going, I said to Derek after a particularly uncomfortable filming session where Mom and Dad had gotten into an argument about Dad's habit of leaving his accounting files all over the kitchen table. What do you mean? Derek asked, though he looked like he knew exactly what I meant. I mean the cameras are catching us at our worst moments, I said. Every little fight, every disagreement, is that really what we want people to see? But that's what makes it real, Derek said. Nobody wants to watch a family that's perfect all the time. I'm not saying we should be perfect, I said. I'm saying maybe we should think about what we're comfortable sharing. You're overthinking this, Derek said. It's going to be fine. But it wasn't fine. As the weeks went on, I started to notice that Linda and her crew were particularly interested in moments of conflict. When we were getting along, they filmed for a few minutes and then took a break. When we were arguing, they kept the cameras rolling. Conflict is what drives narrative, Linda explained when I asked her about it. Nobody wants to watch people agreeing with each other for 30 minutes. Viewers need to see stakes, tension, resolution. But we're not fictional characters, I said. We're real people, and these are real relationships. Exactly, Linda said. That's what makes it so compelling. These are real stakes, real emotions, real consequences, I said. Well, yes, Linda said, but that's what makes it meaningful. The breaking point came during what was supposed to be a simple family dinner in week 8 of filming. Mom had decided to cook a special meal to celebrate Dad's promotion at work. And the plan was to film a nice, supportive family moment where we all congratulated him and talked about how proud we were. Instead, it turned into the worst fight our family had ever had on camera. It started when Amanda mentioned that she was thinking about quitting her job at the dental office to focus on her Instagram account full-time. "I think I'm ready to take the next step," she said, cutting her chicken into tiny pieces. "I've been building my brand for 5 years, and I think it's time to really commit to it." "What does that mean, exactly?" Dad asked, in the careful tone he used when he was trying not to sound judgmental. "It means treating it like a real business," Amanda said. "Posting consistently, engaging with followers, maybe starting a YouTube channel." And how would you support yourself?" I asked, because once again, I was apparently the only one who cared about practical details. "I'd monetize my content," Amanda said. "Sponsorships, affiliate marketing, maybe some coaching." "Do you have any sponsorships lined up?" Dad asked. "Well, no," Amanda said. "But I need to build my audience first. That's why I need to focus on it full time." "Amanda," Mom said gently, "don't you think it might be better to build your audience while you still have your job? That way you have some security." "I can't build it properly while I'm working 40 hours a week," Amanda said, her voice getting higher. "I need time to create content, to engage with followers, to really put myself out there." "But if you quit your job, how will you pay rent?" I asked. "I'll figure it out," Amanda said. "Maybe I'll move back in with Mom and Dad for a while." This was the first Mom and Dad were hearing about this plan, and their faces showed it. "Honey," Dad said, "we haven't talked about that." "I know. But it would just be temporary," Amanda said. "Just until I get established." "How long is temporary?" Dad asked. And I could hear the edge creeping into his voice. "I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year at most." "Amanda," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You've been trying to build your Instagram for 5 years. What makes you think that quitting your job is going to change anything?" "Because I'll have more time to focus on it," Amanda said, her voice getting defensive. "I can't compete with full-time influencers when I'm only posting in my spare time." "But you barely post now," I said. "You post maybe twice a week. How is having more time going to help if you're not already using the time you have?" "That's not true," Amanda said. "I post way more than twice a week." "Amanda, I follow you on Instagram," I said. "You posted 3 times last week, and one of them was a repost of someone else's content." "Why are you keeping track of my posts?" Amanda asked, her face getting red. "Because I'm trying to understand your business plan," I said. "If you're going to quit your job to focus on Instagram, I want to know what your strategy is." "My strategy is to create better content," Amanda said. "But I can't do that when I'm exhausted from working all day." "Amanda, you work at a dental office," Derek said. "It's not exactly manual labor." "Just because it's not physically demanding doesn't mean it's not draining," Amanda snapped. "I'm dealing with people's insurance problems all day. It's stressful." "So is not having any income," I said. "I'll have income from my content," Amanda said. "How much income?" Dad asked. "What are your projected earnings?" "I don't know exactly," Amanda said. "It depends on how fast I can grow my audience." "Amanda, you need to have a plan," Mom said. "You can't just quit your job and hope everything works out." "Yo, why is everyone being so unsupportive?" Amanda asked, her voice getting louder. "I thought family was supposed to believe in you." "We do believe in you," I said, "but we also don't want to watch you make a huge mistake." "What mistake?" Amanda asked. "Trying to follow my dreams." "Following your dreams without a plan," I said. "Amanda, you're 26 years old. You can't just move back in with Mom and Dad and hope your Instagram takes off." "Why not?" Amanda asked. "Derek lives with them." "Derek has a job," I said. "I'll get another job if the Instagram thing doesn't work out," Amanda said. "What if you can't get another job?" I asked. "What if you've been unemployed for 6 months and employers wonder why?" "Then I'll tell them I was pursuing other opportunities," Amanda said. Amanda, that's not how it works. Dad said. Employers want to see consistency. They want to know that you're reliable. I am reliable, Amanda said. You're talking about quitting your job to focus on Instagram. I said. That's not exactly the definition of reliable. You know what? Amanda said, standing up from the table. I don't need this. I don't need all of you telling me what I can't do. We're not telling you what you can't do, Mom said. We're trying to help you think through your decision. No, you're trying to talk me out of it, Amanda said. Just like you always do. Every time I want to try something new, you all find reasons why it won't work. That's not true, Derek said. It is true, Amanda said. When I wanted to go to art school, you said it was too expensive. When I wanted to move to New York, you said it was too risky. When I wanted to start my Instagram, you said it was a waste of time. We said those things because we care about you, Mom said. No, you said those things because you don't believe in me, Amanda said. And now she was crying. None of you think I'm capable of doing anything on my own. Amanda, that's not fair, I said. Isn't it? Amanda said, turning to me. You're always the one who has to fix my mistakes, right? You're always the one who has to bail me out when I mess up. Well, maybe I mess up because nobody expects me to succeed. That's not true, I said. But even as I said it, I wondered if maybe it was a little bit true. You know what the worst part is? Amanda said, looking directly at the camera. I'm 26 years old, and I still need my big sister's permission to make decisions about my own life. You don't need my permission, I said. Don't I? Amanda asked. Because every time I want to do something, you're right there with all the reasons why it's a bad idea. And everyone listens to you because you're the responsible one. I'm trying to help you, I said. By telling me I'm going to fail? Amanda asked. By trying to make sure you don't make decisions you'll regret. I said. What if I want to make my own mistakes? Amanda asked. What if I want to fail on my own terms instead of succeeding on yours? I didn't have an answer for that, and the silence stretched out uncomfortably while the cameras kept rolling. I think we should take a break, Linda said finally. But I could tell she was thrilled. This was exactly the kind of dramatic moment she'd been hoping for. No, Amanda said. I want to finish this. I want to say what I need to say. She turned back to the camera, tears streaming down her face. I love my family, she said. But I feel like I'm suffocating. I feel like I can't make any decisions without everyone weighing in, without everyone telling me what I should do. And maybe they're right. Maybe I am irresponsible. Maybe I do make bad decisions. But they're my bad decisions to make. Amanda, Dad said quietly. We just want what's best for you. I know, Amanda said. But what if what's best for me isn't what you think is best for me? Then we'll support you, Mom said. Will you? Amanda asked. Will you really? Or will you support me as long as I make the choices you want me to make? None of us had an answer for that. I'm going to quit my job, Amanda said. I'm going to move back in with Mom and Dad, and I'm going to try to make my Instagram work, and maybe I'll fail. Maybe I'll fall flat on my face. But at least I'll know I tried. Amanda, I said. I think you should think about this more. There it is, Amanda said, laughing bitterly. There's Stephanie, telling me to think about it more. Do you know what I've been thinking about for the last 5 years? I've been thinking about all the reasons why I shouldn't try, all the ways it could go wrong, all the people who might judge me for failing. We're not judging you, Derek said. Aren't you? Amanda asked. Derek, you got me this opportunity to be on TV, and now you're sitting there looking embarrassed because I'm having feelings on camera. Derek looked stricken. I'm not embarrassed. Yes, you are, Amanda said. You're embarrassed because this isn't the version of our family you wanted to show people. You wanted to show them how great we are, how supportive we are, how much we love each other. But this is what we're really like. We love each other. But we also drive each other crazy. All families drive each other crazy, Mom said. Right, Amanda said. But most families don't have cameras recording it for national television. There was another long silence. And I realized that Amanda was right. We'd all been so focused on showing the world what a great family we were that we'd forgotten to actually be a great family. I'm sorry, I said finally. Amanda, I'm sorry. I do believe in you. I just worry about you. I know, Amanda said, sitting back down. And I love you for worrying about me. But I need you to trust me to make my own mistakes. Okay, I said, though every instinct I had was screaming that this was a terrible idea. If this is what you want to do, then I'll support you. Really? Amanda asked. Really? I said. I'll try to stop being so negative about everything. You're not negative, Amanda said. You're practical. But sometimes practical feels like negative when you're trying to dream big. I'll work on that, I said. We all will, Dad said. Amanda, if you want to try this, then we'll support you. But we need to set some ground rules if you're going to move back home. Okay, Amanda said. What kind of rules? You need to have a timeline, Dad said. You need to know how long you're going to try this before you look for another job. 6 months, Amanda said. And you need to contribute to household expenses, Mom said. You can't just live here for free. I can pay rent, Amanda said. Not a lot, but something. And you need to have a backup plan, I said. Something you can do if the Instagram thing doesn't work out. I can always get another job at a dental office, Amanda said. It's not like I'm unemployable. Okay, Dad said. If those are the terms, then we can make this work. Really? Amanda asked, looking around the table at all of us. Really? Mom said. But we're going to check in with you regularly. This isn't a free ride. I understand, Amanda said. Thank you. All of you. Group hug? Derek suggested. And somehow we all found ourselves hugging around the dinner table while the cameras rolled. But even as we were hugging, I had a sinking feeling that this whole conversation was going to look very different when it was edited for television. I was right. When the episode aired 3 months later, our family dinner had been edited to make it look like we were constantly at each other's throats. The part where we worked things out and came to a compromise had been cut down to about 30 seconds, while the arguing had been stretched out to take up most of the episode. Coming up next week, the narrator said over a preview of the following episode. Amanda moves back home, and the Walsh family learns that sometimes dreams and reality don't match. The preview showed a montage of Amanda crying, me looking frustrated, and Mom and Dad looking stressed, all set to dramatic music that made it seem like our family was falling apart. That's not what happened, I said to Derek as we watched the episode together. That's not how that conversation went. I know, Derek said, but he looked uncomfortable. But they have to edit it down to fit the time slot. They didn't edit it down, I said. They edited it to make us look dysfunctional. We were being dysfunctional, Derek said quietly. We were working through a disagreement, I said. That's what families do. I know, Derek said. But maybe we were more dysfunctional than we realized. Over the next few weeks, as more episodes aired, it became clear that the show was not the heartwarming family portrait we'd been promised. Instead, it was a showcase of everything that was wrong with our family dynamics. I was portrayed as the controlling sister who couldn't let anyone make their own decisions. Amanda was portrayed as the irresponsible dreamer who expected everyone else to support her unrealistic plans. Derek was portrayed as the naive brother who'd gotten his family in over their heads. Mom was portrayed as the flighty mother who enabled everyone's bad behavior. And Dad was portrayed as the passive father who avoided conflict instead of addressing problems. The Walsh family shows us what happens when family roles become too rigid, the narrator said during one particularly painful episode. Sometimes the person who's trying to help is actually hurting, and sometimes the person who seems irresponsible is actually the most honest about what they want. I sound like a monster, I said to Derek after watching myself lecture Amanda about financial responsibility for what felt like the 100th time. You don't sound like a monster, Derek said. You sound like someone who cares too much. Is that what you think? I asked. That I care too much? I think you care exactly the right amount, Derek said. But maybe you express it in ways that don't always feel supportive. So I am controlling, I said. You're not controlling, Derek said. You're scared. You're scared that if you don't take care of everyone, something bad will happen. And what's wrong with that? I asked. Nothing, Derek said. But it means that the rest of us don't get to learn how to take care of ourselves. So this is all my fault, I said. It's not anyone's fault, Derek said. It's just how our family works. But maybe watching ourselves on TV will help us figure out how to work better. Or maybe it'll just make everything worse, I said. Maybe, Derek said, but at least we'll know we tried. The worst part was the reaction from people who knew us. Friends, co-workers, and extended family members all had opinions about our family dynamics, and most of them weren't positive. I had no idea you were so controlling, said my coworker Janet, who'd apparently binge-watched the entire series. Your poor sister. I'm not controlling, I said. I'm trying to help. But you can see how it comes across, right? Janet said. Like you don't trust her to make her own decisions. I don't trust her to make good decisions, I said. There's a difference. But who gets to decide what's a good decision? Janet asked. Maybe quitting her job to focus on Instagram is the right choice for her. She has 300 followers, I said. She's not going to make a living from Instagram. But maybe she'll figure out how to get more followers, Janet said. Maybe she just needs the time to focus on it. Or maybe she'll waste 6 months of her life and end up worse off than she started, I said. Maybe, Janet said. But that's her choice to make. I was getting tired of everyone telling me that Amanda had the right to make her own mistakes. Of course she had the right to make her own mistakes, but I also had the right to not want to watch her make them. The thing is, said my friend Lisa, who'd known our family for years, I always thought you guys were really close, but watching the show, you seem like you don't even like each other. We do like each other, I said. We love each other, but we also annoy each other sometimes. It's more than annoyance, Lisa said. It's like you're all playing roles instead of just being yourselves. What do you mean? I asked. You're the responsible one. Amanda's the dreamer, Derek's the optimist, your mom's the peacemaker, and your dad's the avoider. Lisa said, it's like you're all stuck in these roles and you can't get out of them. Those aren't roles, I said. That's just who we are. Is it? Lisa asked. Or is it who you think you have to be? I didn't have an answer for that, but it stuck with me. Were we really just playing roles? Had we gotten so used to our family dynamics that we couldn't imagine being any other way? The breaking point came during the reunion special, which was filmed 2 months after the series aired. Linda had brought all the participating families together to discuss their experiences, and I was not looking forward to facing the cameras again. The Walsh family certainly gave us some of the most dramatic moments of the season, Linda said as we sat on a couch that was identical to the one in her office. How do you feel about the way your story was portrayed? I think it was accurate, Amanda said, which surprised me. I mean, it wasn't fun to watch, but it was honest. Stephanie, you seem like you might disagree, Linda said. I think it was edited to emphasize the conflicts, I said. We have good moments too. But those didn't make it into the show. But the conflicts were real, Linda said. Those were real conversations, real emotions. Yes, but they were taken out of context. I said, we work through our disagreements. We compromise. We support each other. None of that was shown. Actually, Amanda said, I think the show was pretty accurate about how we interact. Maybe we do support each other eventually, but we do it in a pretty messy way. What do you mean? Linda asked. I mean, we love each other. But we also drive each other crazy, Amanda said. And watching it on TV made me realize that maybe we don't actually communicate as well as we think we do. How so? Linda asked. Well, like with the whole Instagram thing, Amanda said. I thought Stephanie was being unsupportive, but really she was just scared that I was going to fail. And I think Stephanie thought I was being irresponsible, but really I was just scared that I was never going to get the chance to try. So you were both coming from a place of fear, Linda said. Yeah, Amanda said. But we couldn't just say that. We had to have this big dramatic fight instead. Why do you think that is? Linda asked. Because it's easier to argue about practical stuff than it is to talk about feelings, I said. It's easier for me to say that Amanda's plan doesn't make financial sense than it is to say that I'm worried about her. And it's easier for me to say that Stephanie's being controlling than it is to say that I'm scared of failing, Amanda said. So what have you learned from this experience? Linda asked. That we need to work on our communication, Amanda said. And that maybe we're all stuck in these roles that don't really serve us anymore. What kind of roles? Linda asked. I'm the responsible one, so I feel like I have to fix everyone's problems, I said. Amanda's the dreamer, so she feels like she has to prove that she's not just being impractical. Derek's the optimist, so he feels like he has to make everything seem fine, even when it's not. And your parents? Linda asked. Mom's the peacemaker, so she tries to smooth everything over instead of addressing problems, Amanda said. And Dad's the avoider, so he just retreats when things get uncomfortable. Those are pretty entrenched patterns, Linda said. How do you break out of them? I don't know, I said honestly. But I think the first step is recognizing that they exist. And maybe being willing to disappoint people, Amanda said. Like, maybe I need to be willing to disappoint Stephanie by making choices she doesn't approve of. And maybe Stephanie needs to be willing to disappoint me by not always being there to fix things. That sounds scary, Linda said. It is scary, I said. But maybe it's necessary. Derek, what's your perspective on all this? Linda asked. I feel responsible for getting everyone into this situation, Derek said. I thought it would be fun to show off our family, but instead it turned into this whole thing where we're analyzing everything we do. Do you regret it? Linda asked. I don't know, Derek said. I mean, it's been hard to watch, but I think we needed to have these conversations. Maybe we just needed cameras to force us to have them. And how do you feel about the way you were portrayed? Linda asked. I think I came across as kind of naive, Derek said. Which is probably accurate. I really did think this was just going to be a fun experience where we'd get to show people what a great family we are. And what did you learn? Linda asked. That we are a great family, Derek said. But we're not perfect. And maybe perfect families are boring anyway. Mom, Dad, what's your perspective on all this? Linda asked. I think we're all learning that we have room for improvement, Mom said. And that's okay. Every family has room for improvement. I wish we could have had these conversations without cameras, Dad said. But I'm glad we're having them. Any regrets? Linda asked. About doing the show, Dad asked. No. About how we've been handling things as a family. Maybe some. Such as? Linda said. I think I've been too passive, Dad said. I've let other people handle the difficult conversations instead of participating in them myself. And I think I've been too focused on keeping everyone happy instead of helping them work through their problems, Mom said. So, what's next for the Walsh family? Linda asked. Family therapy, Amanda said, which got a laugh from the audience. I'm serious. I think we need to learn how to communicate better. Really? Linda asked. Really? I said. I think we all need to learn how to be ourselves instead of just playing our roles. That's very mature, Linda said. Any final thoughts? I think being on reality TV is harder than people think, Derek said. It's not just about being on camera. It's about seeing yourself through other people's eyes, and that can be really uncomfortable. But also necessary, Amanda said. Sometimes you need that outside perspective to see what's really going on. Even if it's painful, I said. Especially if it's painful, Amanda said. As we walked out of the studio after the reunion special, I felt like we'd learned something important, even if I wasn't sure what it was yet. So, Amanda said as we waited for our car, family therapy? Family therapy, I said. But maybe we can turn the cameras off for that. Deal, Derek said. 6 months later, we're still working on it. The show has been renewed for a second season, but we decided not to participate. We've learned enough about ourselves for one lifetime, and we're ready to work on our relationships without an audience. Amanda did quit her job, and she did move back in with our parents. Her Instagram account now has about 800 followers, which isn't exactly influencer territory, but it's progress. She's also started a part-time job at a marketing company, which turns out to be a better fit for her than the dental office was. Derek got promoted at Meridian Entertainment, partly because of his experience with our show. He's learning to manage his optimism with a healthy dose of realism. And he stopped trying to fix everything for everyone. Mom and Dad are taking a communication class at the community college, which sounds ridiculous, but is actually helping them talk to each other instead of just talking around each other. And me? I'm learning to let people make their own mistakes. It's harder than it sounds, but it's also kind of freeing. I don't have to be responsible for everyone else's happiness. I just have to be responsible for my own. The show still airs in reruns sometimes, and occasionally someone will recognize me and want to talk about it. Most people are kind, but some aren't. I've learned that there's a difference between being famous and being notorious, and I'm not sure which category we fall into. But I've also learned that authenticity is more complicated than just being yourself on camera. Real authenticity means being willing to examine yourself, to admit when you're wrong, and to change when you need to. It means being willing to disappoint people sometimes in order to be honest with them. And it means recognizing that everyone in your family is trying to do their best, even when their best doesn't look like what you think it should look like. We're still figuring it out, all of us. But at least now we're figuring it out together, instead of just assuming we already know what everyone else needs. The cameras are off, the crew has gone home, and we're just a family again. A messy, complicated, imperfect family who loves each other enough to do the hard work of actually understanding each other. And that, I think, is the real story. Not the one they showed on television, but the one we're still writing together, one conversation at a time.